Welcome to Lesson 4 of our online course for early intervention for infants and young children with disabilities. Today we're going to talk about two chapters that you have read in Blended Practices textbook and other topics. So welcome back to our course and to our lecture video. We're going to review a few things that we've been working on and then talk about the chapters and embed some activities along the way. So some old business things that have been going on. You have been posting, or you did post, your locations in your home area for your Child and Family Connections and your Early Childhood Special Education sites. Very interesting information that you're gathering. I hope that you feel a little more connected to these topics and options that you might have for employment in the future regarding decisions you might make if you want to work in the early intervention field or in some way or some capacity with young children who have identified delays or disabilities. Those kids would have IEPs in the 3 to 5-year-old range. Also, keep in mind that there are lots of opportunities and options for your 2-hour observation that you need to get scheduled. Really the only guidelines that you've already gone over in our assignment description is that in the setting or location where you're doing your observation, you need to be sure before you go that there will be at least one child who has an IEP. So we're going to focus on the 3 to 5-year-old range. And you'll have, remember you have the guide for your focused observation, and you really are going to be looking at lots of different aspects of not only the classroom, but the teaching that is happening, as well as social interactions, and of course also focusing on one child that you will be writing your case study about. You also have information in the assignment description regarding what you need to gather about the environment in your observation. So I hope you have fun with that. And then you also looked at the 4 kids that are used in the building blocks text all the way through it. And you found out and filled in a chart about them regarding different aspects of their development. That's an important page that you might want to hang on to and print out or have handy as you're reading your chapters, as we're discussing your chapters in the Building Blocks book, because your authors have very wisely described the activities and strategies using those kids from the activity you've done. Also, just a quick note regarding online courses. Some of you have taken online courses before, and some of you have not. So what I've heard from my students in the past in other courses is that these are some important aspects in order to be successful. Schedule your time. Be committed to this. These are the hours each day or each evening or whatever that I am going to work on the 386 course. Stay focused. Stay current with that schedule. You don't want to get behind. Because again, as we've already talked earlier, in this summer course, we've taken a 16-week semester course, and you're accomplishing all of that in 8 weeks. So we're not lowering the bar of expectations. You are awesome students, and you can do this. And staying current will help you. Acknowledge your successes each week. Give yourself a pat on the back or some sort of reward. I know each week that I get these lessons uploaded, I reward myself with some sort of ice cream, lovely dessert dish. Okay, be sure you read all the directions and check and double check before you ask me questions. I am fine with answering your questions, but sometimes I feel like maybe if you just reread, you would know the answer yourself. So again, don't hesitate to ask me a question, but be sure you've studied the lesson yourself. All right, we are now going to start talking about the Blended Practices Chapter 2 that you read regarding curricular frameworks. We start right out with each chapter in this text having a little bit of a case study. And the one that you're looking at in this chapter is about the Growing Together Child Development Center. And there's a little story there that will help you understand some of the aspects of the chapter that you're talking about. I believe, yes, the teacher, or not the teacher, but the program director is Miss Nicholas. So what you're going to do is go to your assignment tab And there's going to be lesson 4, and there are actually 4 different activities within this one tab that you're going to go to for lesson 4. And one of them is answering these 4 questions. So you might want to go ahead and stop and do that right now, or you can do it later. That's up to you. Just be sure in that assignment tab that you're saving the draft each time. Don't submit it until you've accomplished all of the activities for this lesson. All of them are going to be accomplished by typing in the box. No attachments are needed or expected or actually allowed for this lesson, for these activities. So answer the questions about Miss Nichols. Then the next slide, I want to call your attention to key terms in the chapter. You want to know what is curriculum framework, and what is the difference. You understand assessment, scope, and sequence, which is about your teaching. What's the scope? What are you going to be teaching? And then in what order? You want to learn more about activities and instruction. Most of all of our work with these very young kids is very activity-based. It's very hands-on learning, as you know, because hopefully you've had child development courses and you understand that the kids we're working with are very hands-on learners, very active learners. And then understanding what we mean by standards. There's Head Start standards, there's early learning standards, etc. And maybe there's some other terms you came up with. So I would encourage you to be sure that you're capturing this information as you're going through your text. So now we have a little fill-in-the-blank activity here. So what is the term that means comprehensive guide for instruction that is composed of several elements, including assessment, content, and teaching methods? And that's in your chapter. You're also going to want to know the answer to the second one, which is, what is a set of concepts or a structure for classifying and organizing many elements and processes involved when creating learning ecologies for young children? Be sure that you're able to fill in those blanks. So then what does guide our curriculum framework decisions? And what we mean by this is that depending on what program you work for in the early childhood world, you are going to be asked to be involved in decisions around what do we teach and how do we teach. So that's the curriculum framework. So how do these decisions get made? What informs your decision about curriculum? In some cases, you may go to work at a location where those decisions have been made and you follow what has been decided by the program. In some situations, you'll be involved in conversation. So find out. This is important to ask different programs, including the one you're going to observe. What do you use for curriculum? And some programs will say we use a variety of sources. We don't have one curriculum, and that's a fine answer. Whatever their answer is a fine answer. We're just trying to get at what drives this decision making. So what does ASAP mean? If you don't know yet, make sure you do know, and we're going to talk about that again in a little bit. One thing that does drive decisions about what curriculum to use, again, as I mentioned, is the program you're working for and how that program is funded. If it's funded by Head Start, if it's funded by a community church organization, perhaps, if it's funded by the state of Illinois, such as Preschool for All, if it's funded by 619, which is the Early Childhood Special Ed. So all of the ones that I just mentioned all use the state of Illinois Early Learning and Developmental Standards. That is what ELD, Early Learning and Developmental Standards. And we have an activity for you to do. You will access these standards, which is on the isb.net website, and then follow the directions in the activity guide. You're actually going to follow the directions in the assignment tab, not the activity guide. So you can stop right now and do that if you want to, or you can go back and do it a little bit later. I also want to talk to you about some of the theories. And there we go. Theories and perspectives on page 26 in your book, and you might want to flip to that page right now. You've got about a page and a quarter, a page and a half of different theories that have informed early childhood and the whole field of early childhood. And you'll recognize some of this information: Piaget, Bronfenbrenner, Dewey, Erikson, Bandura, Vygotsky, and Skinner. And all of these different researchers and early childhood folks have impacted our field very much. So I think what you'll find is many of our high-quality programs use a blend of these perspectives and theories in their work. So just wanted to call your attention to that area. Also, there are 3 different approaches that are mentioned in your book towards making decisions about early childhood curriculum. And there's also information about curriculum such as creative curriculum and high scope. So make sure you pick up on those, because you'll find either programs are using purely using creative curriculum or high scope or others, or they're using pieces. So what is it that informs their decisions? Also, a program's philosophy, their mission and their values. Head Start has a very specific mission and philosophy and approach to including the whole family in their early childhood programs, which hopefully we all do, but Head Start is very firm. That impacts their curriculum decisions. I mentioned earlier you might be investigating an early childhood program that is run by an agency, an organization, faith-based organization perhaps. It has a very specific mission and values, and that's going to inform their curriculum as well. So there's a variety of aspects of where we get our curriculum decisions. Okay. The next really important component in your book is a list of 10 learning theory tenets. And these are theories, tenets, as you will, that have impacted our decisions regarding early childhood. They are listed on the next slide, and they're numbered 1 through 10. Your activity, as you can see in the directions and in the assignment tab, is to look at each one of these tenets and describe what this would look like, what kids would be doing to demonstrate this tenet, and pretend that you have a classroom of blended preschool age kids, so kids with IEPs and kids without IEPs. And you're going to be describing what they would be doing that would demonstrate each tenet. And be very sure that you're using developmentally appropriate practices. If you're unfamiliar with that term, Google it. Developmentally appropriate practices. What we're talking about there is each child is individualized in their development, and we want to be using language and using teaching strategies that support each child where they're at developmentally. So, for example, we're not going to consider teaching a 3-year-old how to tie their shoes. That's developmentally inappropriate because that 3-year-old does not have the motor skills yet to accomplish that task. So that's just one small example. All right, so here are the tenets. Read each one, put down number 1, put what the tenet is, and then write what the child would be doing or children would be doing that would demonstrate. So let me use an example here. Number 1, areas of development are interrelated. So what we're talking about there, and what I would type as my example, is that the teacher has an activity for the children to do in the classroom where they are sorting different colors of bears. So we've got red, blue, green, and yellow little plastic bears. And those bears also come in 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large. And so the kids are, and the teacher are talking about colors. They're talking about sizes. They're talking about how many are in each pile or each basket of the different sizes and the different colors. They're having language interaction. The teacher is encouraging them to do this activity in pairs, so they're having social interaction. You can see where we're going with this. Areas of development are interrelated. We're not separately doing a math activity, and now separately we're doing a cognitive activity regarding colors. All right, so that's an activity for you to accomplish. Next, we're going to talk about the curriculum framework umbrella, and I'm going to again refer to your textbook on page 21. So you might want to see 21. That's the right side of your book, and look at that. I like to think of it as the umbrella approach. So you can see that when we look at curriculum framework, we're talking about